Good evening and welcome to the SpeakerMC Show, where it's all about relationships. Today, we are speaking about man to man, male empowerment, male respect, and leadership. Excuse me. Today is Monday, July 9th, and like I said, our show is man-to-man male empowerment. Let me just give you an overview in case that this is your first time here on the SpeakerMC Show. What you can expect is that we're going to give you an intro and overview of the show. Then we're going to take a little break. We're going to come back, say hello to our guests, and then we're going to dive deep into the discussion. Then we'll take another little break and we'll come back and you can meet our guests, have a Q&A session with them, and then we'll go bye-bye until the next time, okay? So here's the overview. We're talking about empowerment, but you always hear about female empowerment. Do you hear about male empowerment? Oh, what is empowerment? Well, according to Wikipedia, empowerment is authority or power given to someone to do something. Or it's also the process of becoming stronger and more confident, especially in controlling one's life and claiming one's rights. Now let's examine, what is male empowerment? Now, is this male empowerment? Empowering your husband, your fiance, your boyfriend to actually help you with the housework. You know, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. And what about outside the home? Is male empowerment that bond that men get with each other? Is it taking their sons somewhere besides a sporting arena? Now, is that male empowerment? Now, why do we need empowerment? Yeah, let's examine that. Because men cry too. They're violated and they're emasculated as well, right? Can we have more male respect? I mean, seriously, can we have more of that? I don't think that will hurt. Well, here's what we can do. We can celebrate men. And guess when we're going to do it? November 19th. It's International Men's Day. I bet you didn't know that. If this is your first time at the SpeakerMC Show, let me tell you what the SpeakerMC Show is all about. It's 60 minutes of candid conversation, non-scripted. We're examining how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to our environment, and how we relate to each other. Yeah, it's all about relationships. And our intention of the show is that for our audience, which is you, we empower and enlighten you with information about creating harmonious environments and boosting your self-confidence. And for our guests, who you'll meet later, we provide a platform and an opportunity to share their message. And for everyone, well, let's just have some fun, okay? Life is not that serious. So let's take a small little break and get a word from our sponsors. Now, here's a word from our sponsor. Too much of this or this? When was the last time you had this or this? Been a while? If you're in the New York area, join us for champagne and chocolate conversations. It's at a comfy, convenient location where you learn 3 things you can do daily to have more energy for your nighttime activities. No nightclub, no kitty chatter. It's adult conversations. Usually it's at the last Saturday between 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. If you are a S.W.E.L.L member, S.W.E.L.L members enter with full access pass. If you're a guest, that means you're not a S.W.E.L.L member, you'll enter for a fee of $27. Bring a +1. Pay a +$7. Bring a +1 for +7. That's right. And it's usually, like I said, the last Saturday between 7 to 9 p.m. Join our meetup group for the details. http://join meetup group. That's bit.ly join meetup group. You get the details there. You'll find out when and where we'll be meeting. See you then for some champagne and chocolate conversations. All right. Well, thank you and welcome back. We have someone trying to join our little crew here. Well, let's say hello to our guests this evening. Woohoo! Let me let this visitor in. Hold on one second. All right. Tonight, we have two phenomenal guests. Yes. And we're talking about male empowerment. Well, we have two gentlemen here to help us crack through the male empowerment issue and male respect. Our first guest that I'd like to introduce is none other than Mr. Brian Baker. Brian is from the Sacramento, California area, and his company is called Respectology. How apropos. Yeah, we're talking about male respect, right? Respectology in the house. Brian's area of expertise is life skills and emotional intelligence. Wow. Brian is a coach, he's a trainer, he's a speaker, and a positivity advocate who has spent 25 years in corporate America leading, coaching, and mentoring people to be the best that they can be. Brian, welcome to the SpeakerMC Show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
We are honored that you are gracing our stage tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And our next guest, now, I've been on his show before. Yes, he had a radio show. And can I tell you, we had so much fun. I don't think we wanted to get off, but we got off. His name is Quincy, and his radio show is the Talk to Q radio show. And Quincy is from Jackson, Mississippi. MISSI yeah, that one. And Quincy is 46 from Jackson, and his vision is to bring back old school values to mainstream America. We're going to find out about that later on in the show. Quincy, welcome to the SpeakerMC Show. How are you?
I am doing great. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we are honored that you are here. Thank you so much. Thank you both for gracing our stage tonight. And in case you're wondering, well, who is that? Well, that is me. That would be me. I am your host, the Speaker MC, and I'm a speaker and sexual wellness consultant, and my area of expertise is working with women who are lonely in their relationships, and I help them to go from sexless to Stevie. That's right, because my mission is to share the message of sexual empowerment with women, and in order to reduce the world's divorce rate by 50%. And that's why I created what's known as S.W.E.L.L for women, sexual wellness and empowered living lifestyles for women. Because I observed so many people exchanging DNA without asking the right questions first. And then they have the audacity to subject the rest of us to their dysfunctions. Hello, talk to me about traffic jams that don't have anything to do with construction or accidents. My message focuses on women about having better sex and intimacy so that they're better parents and better partners. And it's through this sexual competence that they give themselves permission to be sensual, to be sexual, and to begin to lead empowered lifestyles. And as a speaker, I host both virtual and live events, podcasts, TV shows, radio shows, in an effort to positively impact and shift the paradigm in the adult women about sex and their female sexuality. Yes. So tonight, our show topic, and we thank you all for being here on the SpeakerMC Show tonight. We are talking about man to man. Yeah, mano to mano, hombre to hombre, padre to padre. Is that how it goes? Yeah. We're talking about male empowerment, but even more so, we're talking about male respect and male leadership. We hear a lot about women empowerment. Let's talk about some male empowerment tonight. We're going to discuss who disempowers these men and why do we need male respect and leadership? Is there an impact? And how can we have more of this respect in our communities? So first of all, who disempowers these men? Well, how many little boys here, hey, suck it up, son. It's no big deal. Are those damaging words telling them to man up? Well, what kind of impact does it have when we need these male leadership and male respect? What kind of impact does it have on the rest of us? Well, it impacts our girls. I took this little picture and clipping from an article in Women in Leadership by Katie Pollard, and it's dated March 2016. And it reads, all young women need strong male role models. And it says, I'm fearless as a woman because of my dad and his high expectations of me. And the most confident females I know all have positive male influences too. Now, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? How many women are floating around out there with daddy issues? And little boys as well. So how can we have more of this in our communities? There's a saying that goes, teach a man, you raise a community. Well, of course, you teach a woman, you raise a nation. But we're talking about the men tonight. We man up, right? They say iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another man. And this is something in the Bible. Yeah, Proverbs 27:17. That's a topic for a different conversation. But iron sharpens iron. We'll go with that one. And the other thing that we want to touch on tonight is the big picture, the actual communication that is party to this respect, party to this leadership, especially nowadays where we're having so many Brady Bunch type families, where there's so much of the blended families. Yeah, children from different fathers. And how do these fathers communicate? What are the boundaries? We're going to explore all of that tonight. Yes, and it's going to be real juicy. So stay tuned, because I'm going to stop this slide and we are going to delve right in. Gentlemen, you are on the air. Please unmute your mics. Well, I'll unmute your mics for you. So good evening and welcome again. Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, yes.
All right.
I am fabulous. I am fabulous. How are you?
Very well.
Doing well. Ready to get this topic started.
Excellent, excellent. So let's talk about the first pointer. Who disempowers these men? I mean, we spoke about empowerment, and empowerment is giving control and giving person that confidence. Who actually takes it away? Is it just the parents?
You want to go first, Q?
Sure, why not? I think everyone contributes to it. It's not one set group. When you look at society today, society has changed a lot over the last few decades. And respect is something that has been lost because of how people now raise their children, because some of the rules we have in place, like, for example, when it comes to schools, a lot of teachers don't have the authority that they once did. So, male teachers as well as female teachers kind of suffer from that. They don't receive the same respect from children. There are plenty of people who tell you, you can't tell my child anything. So there's no longer a village raises a child type of mentality. So everyone is like to themselves or for themselves. And because of that, you don't have that outward respect that you once had when an elder down the street or an older gentleman may tell you, hey, you kids don't do that, if they're playing away from home or something. So it kind of comes from a bunch of different areas, if you ask me. And there's really not one set catalyst for this.
Teachers don't have the respect anymore. So what is your take on that? Who disempowers these men, Brian?
Well, I would concur with pretty much everything that Quincy just said. You know, it's interesting, the slide that you put up that said "suck it up." And you know, I think we sometimes as men have done this to kids and just told them that to just suck it up and man up, don't have any emotions, don't have any feelings. So you know, I think sometimes we're doing it to kids very, very early on. I think he's right when he talked about respect being lost in our society, you know, authority not being respected the way that it once was. Both of my parents were educators. Both of my parents were teachers. And so, you know, my mom was pretty old school, so she kind of didn't play in the classroom. But at the same time, what's going on now is, you know, when parents get upset with the teachers and it comes to a situation where they say, don't talk to my kid that way, I think we're doing them a disservice, and we have to learn how to just partner with our teachers and partner with authority to be able to raise these young people the right way. And the last thing I will say, you know, it's the timing of this conversation is very interesting. I don't know if you happen to see yesterday, there was an AAU basketball tournament down in Georgia where a big brawl happened, and it's been all over the news today. And you look at the video, and the one thing that just stuck out to me was there weren't any parents or any coaches out there trying to hold these young men back from throwing these blows. And so it kind of fits right into what we're talking about tonight.
So I'm glad that you said that, and you both touched on the teachers being a little bit powerless in this dynamic. Now, what would you say that the teachers would have to do to regain their power? I mean, what is it that the power is lost? They can't talk to the children any kind of way? Or is it that they would discipline the children? Because I remember when I was growing up, I was raised in the Caribbean, and they had these mint bushes, and the mint bush had the switch. And, you know, if you did something wrong, the teacher would say, go and get the switch. And she had the switch, and if it's green, oh my God, it stung. And they would just give you lashes, you know, because, okay, you didn't know your ABCs, or you didn't know your 1, 2, 3s, whatever it is. And you go home and you say, oh, Mommy or Daddy, they beat me, teacher beat me with the switch. And they would say, well, why was that? And then they would beat you. Like, what the hell, you know? Can't win for losing.
Right.
So is it that kind of old school discipline type system? Is that what we're lacking? Because I know nowadays they call the cops on you for any little thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I was just about to say. You know, I think there's a lot of fear when you know, and it's a litigious society. So, you know, you're either getting sued or you're getting law enforcement called on you. And, you know, when I was younger, very, very early on, I went to Catholic school, and them nuns had those rulers, right? And so, you know, that was a different time. But, you know, at the same time, what I would like to see on both sides, meaning the teachers and the parents, is that at the end of the day, we're trying to educate your children. And I'd like to see a little bit more partnering with teachers going on from parents. And, you know, parents have to be invested in their kids. You know, sending your kids to school is not daycare. And you have a responsibility too. You need to send someone to school that appreciates the authority in the classroom, that's respectful, that's courteous, that has manners, and that all starts at the house. So, unfortunately, I think we got kids raising kids in a lot of instances. That's not always the case, but you know, parents tend to parent the way that they were parented, and that's my take on it.
Well, there's no handbook for raising these little munchkins, but Q, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So with regard, Brian brought up that partnering with parents. Now, as a father, I'm just saying, picture-wise, as a father, and your child is giving problems at school, and the teacher is a man. Now, doesn't that open up the floor for better communication, better respect, like a man-to-man kind of thing?
For me and the male teacher, or are you talking about as far as what I teach the child?
No, for you and the male teacher. I'm talking about the partnering with the parents that Brian touched on.
Yes. I mean, it absolutely, respect starts at home. And whenever you have a situation at school, and say if you have a male teacher, as if I, as a father, I would go to that person and we're talking man to man and looking at the big picture. The big picture is, what can we do as a team to ensure that my child is getting the best education and making the most of their opportunities? And that should be the only perspective. It shouldn't be going on the defensive, as far as, you're singling out my child, or you can't take that approach. If that's the case, then that will come out at some point. But you have to approach it as part of a team. And then you have to teach your child to respect whoever that is in authority. When I was growing up, if you asked me one of my teacher's first names, I would say Mr., because that's all I knew, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Smith. I didn't know anyone's first name, okay, because I was taught to call everyone Mr. and Mrs. And that's something you have to instill in these children at a young age, and teach them to respect authority. Some people think that it's like a form of fear mongering or something like that. And I don't know if there is a little fear that comes with respect. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But we have to look at this as, this is teamwork. This is what we're trying to do because we're doing what's in the best interest of the child.
Well, you have parents nowadays, and I hear wholeheartedly, and listen, I'm with you. But you have parents nowadays who are in the 21st century, and they'll tell you, listen, the child is just expressing themselves. Oh, that little monster is bad. He needs his ass whooped, But they're saying, no, the child is expressing themselves. So you're both saying charity begins at home, which I agree. It has to start at home with the parents, letting them know, listen, you don't do this, and you call the elder person, anybody over your age is an elder to you.
Absolutely.
I don't care if they're just 1 year older than you, they're your elder. You call them Mr. and you call them Miss. I went to someone's home the other day. Hope she's not watching. And, and she had a 5-year-old girl. And now she and I have been friends for eons, right? And her little 5-year-old, I think it was her granddaughter, actually. Yeah, telling our age, right? A little 5-year-old granddaughter. She said to me, Marcia! I wanted to say, who the hell are you talking to? You ain't talking to me. So I ignored it. I acted like I didn't hear. I was doing something, and then I started, so I drowned it out. And she's like, Marcia! Indignant, like, yes, Marcia! I'm saying, I know she's not talking to me. Not this little 5-year-old. So my friend came into the room, and she said to the little girl, you don't talk to her like that. But that's her name, isn't it? And then she storms off. So when you're telling me that it begins at home, it actually really does.
Yeah.
But a lot of these parents don't take the time because they're like, she's being expressive. Expressive my ass?
Right.
Yeah, so that was like, for me.
And then you hear all the time, if I can add really quick, people always want to say children have changed. Children are still the same. Parents have changed.
Yeah.
Parenting techniques have changed. My generation being a 70s baby, we're like, one of the ones who said, all right, we're going to change the game a little bit. We're going to write books on how we can do discipline these days. We're going to change up the game. And so I just hate to hear the excuse that kids have changed. Kids have always been kids. It's up to us to instruct them and guide them the direction they need to go.
Absolutely.
Kids are picking up the phone and calling 911 on their own damn parents. Go
This
figure.
Is true. This is true.
Go figure. So then, piggybacking on that, so it starts when they're young, and you have to groom them. So when they don't get the proper grooming, all kinds of dysfunctions happen, right?
Yes.
But then they run across women like me who don't tolerate that nonsense. And it's like, how do we then, the impact, let's talk about the impact. because when you don't have that role model per se, and the children learn it, they're products of their environment. So something's going on at home to give rise, give fruit, give bearings to this kind of behavior that is tolerated. So obviously they're looking at the elder, and the elder's acting like that, so they're acting like that, right? Then you go into the streets, this elder, and I don't remember where I was going with this. I'm asking, what's the impact? What is the, I just had a brain fart, like.
It happens.
What is the impact that this now has on the rest of the family? Because if that person is not a role model, they've now grown into big boy, and big boy didn't have the rearings, the old school rearings, right? He just went buck wild, and now he's forming his own family. What kind of impact is that having? I mean, down the line, the child, the wife, the environment.
Sure.
What kind of impact is it having?
Well, it's to me, it's going to have a very negative impact. I mean, you mentioned something just a minute ago that is so important, about modeling behavior, right? I think you mentioned role modeling, but modeling behavior, that's, when someone does not have the opportunity to see what it means to be a man, what it means to be respectful, what it means to be a leader. It's going to be difficult for them. The impact is negative. The hope is that, there are people in the community that actually know better, that are doing some coaching and some mentoring where they can. And, I've tried, in my life to make sure that I did that. I've been an AAU basketball coach, a youth basketball coach for over 10 years. And, many kids played for me that came from single family homes. And so you try to model behavior, you try to talk to them, you try to encourage. I'm a big believer of encouragement. I think people need it. I think people want to feel important. They want to feel valued. And so, our society spends a lot of time tearing people down, tearing things down, very little time building things up. And so, as members of the community, it really is up to those of us who know better to try to intercede where we can and just give someone the opportunity to learn something a little bit different, not from a negative perspective, but positively trying to encourage them to see another way.
You mentioned coach. So are the coaches now going to be the replacement fathers? Are they now going to be doing the duties that the father should be doing at home, or the male role model should be doing at home?
Unfortunately, I think coaches have played that role for decades. For a lot of young men, and when I say unfortunate, it's fortunate that they're there. It's unfortunate that many coaches take on the duty of not only being the father to their children, but being the father figure to a lot of other kids. Don't mind doing that, but at the same time, you can only go so far. There's certain things I did with my two boys when I was raising them that I wasn't going to be able to go the distance with someone else's kids. And so, but coaches have always kind of played that role during my life for young men that unfortunately didn't have a male role model or male figure at home. So, a good thing for coaches. They've changed a lot of lives and young people over the years. And I think we'd be lost without them.
Okay. Well, I like that point, but if the young man lives at home with dad, or the young man lives at home with mom, and then dad comes to visit, but then he's always with coach. So coach kind of takes precedence. How is then that going to impact that dynamic? Because he's going to say, well, coach said, and coach said, and coach said. How is that going to play out?
Well, one thing about it, it is a difficult balance, because you have to understand that you have certain limitations, I guess, by not being a child's father. There are certain times or certain things where you may have to communicate with that person's parents in order to kind of get to keep them up to speed on what's going on. Because there may be times where you interact with the child and teach them things or opportunities and they may not get that at home, and you don't want a situation where it's a competition, where, you know, you're doing anything to belittle that person's father, because that's still their father, and they still need to have respect for him. So it's a delicate balance, but it's back to the whole village thing. You know, as a grown man, you should want to help anyone's child when given an opportunity. You want to take advantage of any chance to give someone, you know, a teaching, a learning opportunity or a teaching moment, so to speak. So you kind of have to be careful and try to make sure you don't step on anyone's toes, because everyone is not receptive. We all should be, and we all should appreciate help from the outside, but unfortunately in today's society, we don't. So you just have to kind of watch your step a little bit and do what you can. And if it gets to a point to where you're stepping on someone's toes, then you got to have a conversation with the parents and try to get them to step up.
So you're saying they should stay in their lane, kind of thing. Know where their lane is and stay in their lane.
As best as you can, I think. I mean, of course, you know, there's an exception to every rule.
Right.
But I think you try to follow along that guideline, because like the whole role model thing is so different now. When I was growing up, my role model was a football player named Tony Dorsett. And I wanted to run the football like Tony Dorsett. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I knew about him was football. But now we have Instagram, Twitter, and all these shows, Entertainment Tonight, so you can follow someone's complete lifestyle. You know, so when you idolize someone now, you're idolizing their life and not necessarily what their talent. You know, so these guys now, they don't necessarily want to be a rapper like Young Jeezy or like, you know, Jeezy or something like that. They want to be that person, like his lifestyle, the women, the cars, the liquor, the drug use, and all of that. When I was growing up, I just saw a football player, and that's all I did. Once he left the field, I don't know what he did. You know. So you have to really parent a lot harder, because you're really competing with a lot today because of today's technology.
Okay, so let's go back to the parents now. And I like what you said, that, you know, they're more in tune with the representation of that person as opposed to knowing even what that person is all about. And the same could be said of the parents and the children. A lot of children don't know anything about their parents, just that they were mom and dad. And they think that, you know, and this is going back to my other show, but they think that at a certain age, mom and dad should just be sleeping in separate beds, maybe in separate houses, but in the same house. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have any kind of intimate relations. But they're humans and they're people too. Now, this begs the question, and it goes right back encircling, who is disempowering these men? Is it that we're putting too much pressure on men? The men, because I think masculinity is a feminine ideal, because if a man is taking care of his family, if a man is providing, if a man is sending her flowers and Valentine's Day and remembering the birthdays, I mean, everything, the friend, the lover, the husband, the protector. I mean, is it too much? Is it too much? Does this get to a point where, man, I can't deal with that. This is too much.
Well, you talk to somebody that's been married for 28 years now. So, you know, I've been in this game juggling for a long time. And so I think it's just built into me now. I'm used to it. But I don't personally believe that it's too much. I think that just goes along with being a man. And quite frankly, you know, I am of the belief that you're capable of doing all of those things and still spending time, you know, with yourself and growing and maturing as an individual. I think it really kind of comes down to your perspective on things. You know, if you're fortunate enough to be in a relationship with someone that's understanding, that you've grown with, and you've had the opportunity to, you know, get to know one another very, very well inside out. And so you know when it's a good time to talk and when it's a good time to not talk. You know when it's a good time to listen and shut up, right? If you know all of those things. No, I don't.
About you, the man?
Exactly. But I don't think it is too much. You know, one of the things for me personally is that I've taken a great amount of joy in raising two young men. They're 22 and 20 years of age now. And doing it in partnership with my wife, because we had the understanding that this was a partnership, that we were going to raise these two dudes. And so it just, for me, it just has been, it's not too much. I kind of feel like that's what we're supposed to do, and just kind of, partner with our mate and do what you got to do and keep it pushing. And I don't know, it's just a perspective thing.
So you're saying that when you make that commitment, you make that emotional commitment as well.
Well, absolutely. And then when we're talking about commitment and we're talking about being a parent and being kids, kids don't ask to come here, right? They ain't one kid that just said, yeah, I definitely wanted to come here. I asked to be here. And so, you got to take care of me now. No, that's not how it works. We know that. And so, yeah, we got to do what we have to do in terms of, being a leader in our homes and being a leader in society, in our communities.
So Q, where do these men who we expect so much of, that Brian says, we make that emotional commitment, where do they go to cry? I mean, do they go to their man cave, or do they go to their bro, or do they go to the sports arena and just punch it out? Where do they go to cry? Because we are human, right? Yep. And men cry too. And I don't think there's anything wrong if a man cries. There's nothing wrong with his mask. I think it's rather sexy, actually. Yep. Now, if he cries too damn much, then we got.
yeah. If he's crying while he's watching Dora the Explorer, I think As a man, I mean, there are going to be points in your life where it's too much. Okay. And, there's a real problem now with mental health issues.
Yes.
All right. Especially among Black men. We don't like to admit it, but it goes on. And you have to have an outlet. Okay. Yes. And whatever that outlet may be that allows you to decompress, you need to find it. Now, if that's a best friend who's a good listener, if that's your significant other who's a good listener, but someone who's going to understand you, not ridicule you, not criticize you or belittle you, because, you may break down. Right. But if you don't break down, you're going to explode.
Yeah.
Okay, make no mistake about it. At some point, you're going to explode. And it's usually going to be pretty bad for someone who may be in the area. So you want to make sure that whatever that outlet may be, that allows you to get things out. Like for me, it was my radio show. A lot of the topics I had on my radio show were things that bothered me. So that allowed me to express myself and get things out, so it didn't build all up until the moment that I exploded. So everyone has something or someone, and they need to really rely on that person. And it's okay to lean on them. It's okay. I mean, even Superman is weakened by kryptonite. Everyone has a weakness.
Right. Right.
So whenever you're at a weak state, you got to find someone strong to help you back on your feet so you can keep going.
And if I could add to that, and Q, you right on point with that, particularly when you're bringing up the mental health aspect of things. You see the news all the time now. People are bringing harm to themselves and checking out of this world, and oftentimes, and young people as well. And so what you have is a situation where, folks don't feel like they have an outlet or someone that they can go to. I think there was a study recently that talked about one of the leading factors in someone committing suicide was stressful relationships or not having relationships. And so that is so major and that's so huge. And you brought up the fact that, African American men, we tend to not want to seek the help. We think that that's weak. And I think it's one of the most detrimental things that we do to ourselves. I can just say on a personal note, when my father passed away, he passed away 10 years ago, and he passed away unexpectedly. And one of the first things that I did within 24 hours was I was making an appointment to go get some counseling, because I knew immediately I wasn't going to be able to handle this on my own. Right. But I'm thankful that I didn't have any inhibitions about doing that, because I knew that this is something facing me I'm gonna have to deal with, and I'm gonna need some counseling to do it. And so, I lost my brother a year later, my only brother, a year later, and I found myself in counseling again. So if it wasn't for seeking out some professional help when I needed it, and we all need some help at various stages in our lives, we just got to not be ashamed to go ahead and get the help. Raise your hand, ask for some help, because it'll get you through.
And isn't asking just part of the leadership also? I didn't mean to cut you off. Isn't that also part of the leadership when you're able to ask for help?
Yes.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Go ahead, Q. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Well, I was just going to add, and first, to answer your question, yes, it is part of it. And it kind of goes back to your first slide you had with the little boy, and it said, suck it up. It goes back to that. I'm a firm believer in tough love, but you have to have a balance.
Yes.
Okay. You can't be too tough. I saw a commercial just yesterday. It was a tissue commercial, and it was like a teenage boy. He's in the bathroom with some tissue, and he's crying because his girlfriend broke up with him. And his father's outside the door trying to console him. Now, his father could have told him, man, you don't need her, suck it up. There are plenty of women out there. But instead, he approached the boy with a joke. He said, well, when I was your age, the only woman who talked to me was your grandmother. So, and the boy started laughing. So you have to kind of know how to approach certain things, know when to be delicate, and then know when to start to rebuild them and restore that confidence.
Yep.
I like that. In my line of work, I come across women. I talk to women all the time. And one of their main contentions is that my husband just won't talk to me. You'll see that something's bothering him and he just won't talk to me. Why is that? Men just won't communicate. We would love to empower you, but for whatever reason, you don't want to communicate. You don't want to say anything, and then you hold it inside,
Well, that's interesting. If my wife was here on this telecast with us right now on this podcast, she would laugh at that, because we kind of have a role reversal thing going on in our home a little bit, because I'm a communicator, right? I mean, I've always been a communicator, and there's times where it's a role reversal thing where she's kind of like, not now, dude, I'm not really trying to feel you on this, and so I'll get back to you at a later date. Well, I'm somebody that's like, oh, there's a problem, let's resolve it, right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so like, we're not gonna let this thing fester. Let's knock this out the box and keep it pushing, right? So I don't know what it is about the fear of communication oftentimes, because I got plenty of boys that fit that mold, right? And it's just encouragement. It's like, hey man, get it out, because as Q said, you can't just leave it in. It's just going to fester. It's going to blow up, and it's going to end some really good things in your life, potentially in the form of relationships, friendships, etc.
It must be that ego thing, because they feel that grown men don't cry, and getting back to that suck it up thing again, a lot of men are raised that way, where boys don't cry, right. Boys are tough, and you just have to withstand everything. But like I said, we're all human. We're all human. So now we're at the third and last. How do we get more of this leadership and communication back into our communities? How do we get that more into our communities? And especially touching on the blended family issue, because that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
That is.
Yeah. How do we get more of that into our communities? And then we're going to have to wrap it up with you just telling us a little bit more about you. But okay. Yes, that one question.
All right. Q, you
go ahead.
Okay. All right. So
bro love over here.
Yeah, there you go. Respect, just always trying to be respectful. But what I would say to that is, so one of the things that I am doing, and this may be a good segue to talking about what I actually do in my business, and one of the things that I'm currently doing is I'm working with my 22-year-old son, Avery, who just graduated from college 2 months ago. And thank you. And we are speaking on stages about how you create a healthy family relationship. And what we have done is we've broken down this talk into 5 different factors that have allowed us to have the bond that we currently have in our lives. And so the factors that we go through that have worked for us are open conversations. It was a kind of a policy that we put out in our home from the beginning, that both our kids can come talk to us about anything. We talk about the ability to build trust within your family. We talked about the expectations that we set, of them as young people, and the expectations that they had of us as parents. We also talk about how do you resolve conflict effectively within your relationship, and then the last factor that we talk about is being emotionally invested in your relationship. And so, this is a talk that and a workshop that accompanies it that we are now in the midst of taking out on the circuit. And so we're looking at the university circuit. We're looking at the high school circuit. We're looking, quite frankly, at a lot of athletic departments within universities where you have a ton of young people, young athletes who some of them are parents now, and some of them are soon to be parents. And so we're trying through this talk that talks about our story, all the trials and tribulations. It hasn't been roses and candy by any stretch of the imagination, but we decided. No, and it shouldn't be, because there wasn't no friendship here. One of the things that when we talk about in the talk is it's really cool to be talking about this relationship as father and son, but now more as friends, because we've created and moved into the friendship level in our relationship. He still knows the boundaries, but the fact of the matter is that's where we are now. And so we're trying to get that message out as much as we possibly can, and seen and viewed by as many families as we can, because quite frankly, you got to meet people where they are, and there's snippets and nuggets that they could take from throughout this talk, because it's a conversation that we have with one another, and it's a great generational conversation from a baby boomer to a millennial, and it's really resonating. So that's what we're really doing, to try to get the message out there that if you're willing to sometimes agree to disagree, and you're willing to put in the work, things can always get better.
So is that going to be at the event that you have, the table? I think it's called the table event. Or
yeah, that one. Yeah, we actually just completed that event. We're actually going to be speaking out here at the UC Davis Medical Center in about a week on a monthly dialogue series that they have. So we're in the middle of really kind of stretching this thing out, and we may be in a city near you over the next 12 months, because this is something that we feel like is needed. We think a lot of families are in pain and dysfunction, and it really doesn't have to be that way if you can get down to some basics within your relationship as a parent and your child, and work this thing through. So that's what we're trying to do.
And this is for just the male part of the family?
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. When we first started this project, one of our good friends she's a PhD, and we were talking about this with her, and she was like, well, the fact that you're a father and a son is great, but just the talk in the way that you guys have formatted it really is for everybody. It doesn't have to be a father and a son. A lot of people are raising their nieces and their nephews, right? Or their godchildren. And so, mothers and sons have, not the same issues, but similar issues. And we're really, again, talking about, expectations. We're talking about building trust. We're talking about communication. How do you resolve conflict? So it's pretty universal. It just happens that, we're a father and son team doing this.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, Q, speak about bringing back the old school values. Is that how we're going to resolve the communication and bring that back into, not communication, but the, good grief, bring it back into our communities?
I think that's where we have to start. We have to kind of look at some things that work, okay? Now, like I said earlier, things evolve over time. Things change. But there's some basic core principles that still work. There's certain things you have to teach young boys if you expect them to grow up and be productive and respected and respectable men. You know, making eye contact when you speak to someone, a firm handshake, take your hat off or your cap off when you come in someone's home. You know, I mean, just simple things like that can go a long way. And, you know, like for me, I feel like there's certain things that guys should do, kind of like what Brian said earlier, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know, he said that he enjoyed raising two boys. All right, how many people say that they enjoy raising kids, but he knows that's what he's supposed to do? See, at some point in our life, we have to flip the switch to go from player to parent. And we don't want to do that now, right? We want to have kids and, you know, they're like accessories almost. And we want to, you know, be a parent every other weekend, so to speak, and we want to ball the rest of the week. And it's like we don't want to grow up anymore.
All right. I know player to pimp.
Yeah, I know some people, they don't even want to be referred to as a grandfather because it makes them sound old.
I know.
But they come up with these little nicknames, you know, for grandmothers and things of that nature. So I think if we just teach some of the basic core principles, and if you get that in your mind that I'm doing this because I'm supposed to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's instinctive. Just like when a baby turtle hatches, your sea turtle, he goes straight to the ocean. It's instinctive. And we have to find a way to restore that. But in order to do that, we have to teach. Okay, we have to instruct. And not only do we have to teach men how to interact with other men, we got to teach them how to talk to women. Okay, all right, because that's horrible now. Oh, man. These kids feel like they can say anything. And whether she's a stripper or a doctor, they're going to approach her the same way. You know, so it's like we have to get them and break it down for them very early on and teach them that, you know, hey, you'll receive a lot more respect if people see you get it.
I love that. I love that. And piggybacking on what you said about kids respecting elders, true story. I was driving home. My mom was in the car. She's in the passenger seat. My mom is, obviously my mother is older than me. And this this kid, and I would say he was about 13, maybe 14 years old. This is like at 7 p.m. at night. And it wasn't in the summertime. Or was it in the summertime? It was like fall, early fall. So, you know, early September. So it wasn't that cold. It wasn't that hot. Anyway, he was walking down the street and his pants were sagging. So I thought it was appropriate. I said, hey, we don't want to see your drawers. You know, I shouted that out the window. You know what this little boy did? My mother's in the car. He spun around and said, bitch, go fuck yourself. My mouth fell. My mother's mouth fell. Yeah. She wanted to say something. I'm like, no. We're going to get out of here. Because I don't want him to go into his pants and take out no gun or nothing like that. And then next thing you hear is pow, 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 because I shouldn't have said anything to him. Right. And it's that level of disrespect now that's in our communities. And the disrespect just go across the board. And you said, you know, the men to women, the boys, how they talk to women, how the men talk to women. Yeah, we women also have some kind of iron in that fire. We're to blame as well. So we take ownership with that. But notwithstanding that, they still got to know how to talk to women. Because they'll come and they'll come to the wrong woman, you know, and say some nonsense and she'll ignore, and then they'll come to the other level with the violence or something of that nature, you know, and it would be unfortunate. It would be on CNN and, you know, Maury Povich and all of them. So, gentlemen, it's almost at the time, and I want to say thank you both for coming on the show. Did you have fun? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Great.
Oh, good. Somebody here is trying to come in at the end of the show. I hope that you had a really good time. And, you know, I love the fact that, by the way, did you bring any gifts for our audience? Look, they went off. They went off screen. Did you bring any gifts for our audience?
Yeah, I actually have a gift for the audience. You mentioned in the beginning that my expertise is life skills and emotional intelligence. I'm an emotional intelligence certified coach, and emotional intelligence is simply, let me give you the definition for it, is it's the ability to understand your emotions and the emotions of other people at a time, at a particular time, at that time, and then use that information to direct your actions and how to manage the relationships that you're in. And so there's really 4 pillars to it. It's self-awareness, self-management, awareness of others, and relationship management. And so my offer to your listeners today is, if they would like to have a complimentary 60-minute coaching session, I am more than willing to honor that. Today is July the 9th. I would ask that they reach out to me within the week. July the 16th. My schedule is really, really packed, but I want to offer that to your listeners. They can reach me at Brian. Can I give the information where they can reach me? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Very good. So my website is respectologynow.com. And you can certainly send me an email on my website. My email address is brian@respectologynow.com. And on the website, you're actually able to see some snippets of some clips of the talk that I mentioned that I'm doing with my son. The other part of my business is I work with companies and businesses to bring civility and respect back into the customer experience. And when I say customer, I'm not just talking about the outside customer. I'm talking about the internal customer, employees, how they deal with each other, how the leaders in the company are, leading other people. So that's what I do. And I train on that subject matter. I'm also a paid speaker. So I go and speak to retreats and meetings and conventions and that kind of stuff. And the last thing I'll add in that business, in the coaching aspect of what I do, I work with people that are in perhaps corporate America. It doesn't have to be corporate America, but where you are maybe struggling to try to find some upward mobility. And so I work with people and teach them how to manage relationships within the workplace in order to position themselves to have some success. And oftentimes it's not really big things that make the difference. It's some of these soft skills that we're talking about. So that emotional intelligence, are you easy to work with? Are you a critical thinker? Are you a problem solver? Do you have good communication? What are your interpersonal skills like? So it's those things that I think people sometimes miss the boat on. It's not all about your skill set right now from a technical standpoint. It's how do you get along with other people?
Absolutely. And it helps with the conflict resolution as well, because they have a lot of those at work.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you, Brian. I'll be showing the slide towards the end of the show.
Okay, very good.
Quincy.
Well, I don't have a service like Brian. The only gift I have is my smile.
But, it's a pretty smile, brother. It's a pretty smile.
I appreciate it. But I just have a perspective to offer, and that's just to teach boys and young men how to be leaders. Teach them to stop following everything that they see. Learn to think for yourself. And one of the things my mom taught me how to think for myself. Okay, hey, don't do what you see everyone else do. Don't be a clone, so to speak, right? And so, and I took that to heart. I don't have anything against people who do, but I've never owned a pair of Jordans in my life. Okay. Because I would go to the clubs back in my 20s and everybody looked alike. It's like a family reunion or something, Everybody had on the same outfit. And I didn't want to be that dude. I did not want to be a clone. So I did my own thing, and saved a lot of money in the process too. And just a memo to young guys out there, you have more money to go out on dates if you don't buy all this crazy stuff. That's another show. But I just want people to understand that it's okay to be different. It's okay to take a different path as opposed to everyone else. And that's something we just have to try to teach kids. And any opportunity you have to teach a child, then try to take advantage of it, okay? And if you just get one, that's a start. Because we have to start somewhere. Because Lord knows the culture of society is so negative right now that it's going to take a lot of effort to turn things around.
Absolutely.
You just got to start with one, right?
Yes.
That's how you walk 1,000 miles. You one step
Yes.
at a time.
That's right.
Well, I thank you both for being here,
Thank
and
you.
I definitely want to know. Did you have fun?
It
Oh,
was a
yeah.
blast. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I sincerely hope that you'll be back again.
I thought we were going to get another hour.
I will definitely be back. I'm a huge fan of yours. Now I'm a huge fan of Brian. I will be following him as well. So it was great.
It was fun.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad that you are creating that bro love, And make sure, guests, listen, subscribe to our channel and listen out for our podcasts and join us at our next show. And let me show you what our next show is. Boop, boop, be-doop. Our next show is going to be on July 23rd at 9 p.m. It's entitled, Do I Have to Be Strong All the Time? Yeah, because so many people are keeping all of that in when they really want to cry and let it out. You got to let it out. You know, Q said it. You got to let it out somehow, somewhere, because it's going to affect everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you join me on Saturday, July 28th at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. I don't even have my flyer up. Isn't that sad? We're having champagne and chocolates conversations, and it's going to be in Brooklyn. Yeah. So July it's going to be in Brooklyn. In September, it's going to be in Beaufort, South Carolina. And in November, it's going to be in Fresno, California. Yes. Hey. So make sure you catch up with us, okay? Now, I want to say thank you all for being here, and thank you so much, Q. Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you to our guests, our silent partners, who are here with us in spirit and watching the show. And I hope that you can return next time. And like Maya says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I hope we made you feel warm and fuzzy here tonight, had a lot of fun, learned a thing or two, and we're going to get back to that old school type of, what, Q?
Old school values.
Old school values, because you know I almost said old school type of loving, but
that's another show.
That's another show. So until next time, here are the gentlemen's information. Please reach out to them. Brian gave you his info with regard to his website, Respectology. Is that still right? Respectology2017 at Gmail?
Is that, I can't.
The email.
Yeah. You can use that email. Yeah, that's fine. It works.
Okay.
And I want to add something also. I have a blog at thankyou.me.
Yes, thankyou.me. Can they also see that on your website, talktoq.com?
And yes, I think there's a link to it on the website as well.
Okay, fabulous. Yes. So please reach out to these gentlemen. They have been phenomenal guests tonight. And you can catch up with me on any one of our social media at speak2MC. That's speak2MC. Or on my website, marciachambers.com. Thank you all for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Until next time, bye for now.
Good night.